Yeah, somewhere.
Okay.
Talking. Awesome. Hey, peeps. Thank you for joining us today. I have the utmost pleasure of being able to interview the phenomenon, Mr. Doug Sandler. So for those of you who don't know, I have recently released my podcast out in the world, and we're going to talk to Doug about it. Yay! That's awesome. And then we're super excited about some more news that's coming up. But thank you, Doug, for being here. I know that your time is extremely precious and that you're probably going absolutely crazy right now with all of this stuff going on. It's so exciting.
Nothing going on. What are you talking about?
What? Strickland's doing it all. I got nothing.
Exactly. Once you have all the look, when you put Matthew McGregor, Kim Whitecamp, and Strickland Bonner on your team, you just get to arrive to launch day and everything is great. All you have to do is be a calm, centered front man for the entire program. And hopefully I've been able to do that over the last 2 hours. It's been back to back live stream videos, which is totally cool. Love it. Thanks for having me here, Michelle.
That is awesome. So for those of you who don't know, Doug runs company with Strickland Bonner, and the company name is Turnkey Podcasts, and they teach people how to get their podcasts up and running. So give everybody kind of the 5,000-foot view, who you are, what you do, and all that kind of fun stuff. Bring them up.
Yeah, cool. Well, I started a show about 5 years ago. Thanks, Michelle. It's called the Nice Guys on Business podcast. And I was looking for a way to promote a book at the time because I couldn't afford the deep pockets, $3,500 that a publicist wanted. So I used podcasting as that space to introduce my book to the world. What I discovered was that people did not want the actual product or service that I was promoting on my course, on my podcast, which wasn't bad, but it did take us about almost 2 years to figure out what was it that people were going to want. And what I love about podcasting, it's so great because if you have something that you think your community wants, just wait a few moments. They will tell you that they don't want that, but they want something else in its place. So about 2 years into starting our podcast, our community came out of the woodwork and said, hey, we love the fact that you have all these other things, but we want you to teach us how to actually build a podcast. So it started with one client and it has evolved to over 200 clients that have jumped into podcasting. And the beauty of it is that whether you're into it for building community, you want to grow your influence, or you want to make money, any of those or all of those three reasons, podcasting can be the right fit for you. So that is a very, very high level approach to what podcasting can do for you. And happy to share more details or go down a deeper, path or rabbit hole of any of those things if you want, Michelle.
Nice. We love going down rabbit holes. Absolutely. So
totally understand.
What made you decide podcasts were your thing?
I think originally it was out of inability to pay a larger. And here I'm going to share the live on my page as well. So how do I do that? Wait a minute. Share now with my friends. Okay, this has now been shared with my friends. Okay, cool. So originally I got into podcasting because I didn't have the money to spend on bringing a publicist into my world to pay for publicity for my book, and I really was trying to figure out, at the time I said to my friend Strickland, not my partner at the time, but just a buddy of 15 years or so, I said, Strick, I'd love to do this podcasting thing, but I just have no idea how. Would you handle like all the technical stuff if I started a podcast? And then I'm thinking, nah, the tech stuff is good, but I really need him to co-host with me because I'm not even sure I have anything to say. So we just started this podcast, and it was a handful of episodes that we had maybe 5 or 7 people that were listening to, and we started to not get discouraged, but we started to really take a close look under a microscope of how to promote our podcast to make it actually grow. And like I said before, 2 years of struggle with it, but just consistent with putting our message out there. So I got into it originally because I was trying to promote my business. What ended up happening was, yes, it promoted my business. It became the chief lead generation factory for my production business, which is now my production business. And instead of my podcast being like this thing that I'm just going to try, I mean, we're all into podcasting. Now it's the center hub of my business. All of my relationships come from podcasting. My joint venture partnerships, my affiliate relationships, my collaborative arrangements come from podcasting. All of the money that we make in our business, it is all filtered through podcasting as the central hub. There are many, 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 many different strategies. There's probably 24 strategies that I could reel off, but there's at least 5 strategies that you could specifically focus on when you build a podcast. If money is your thing, that you can do. Now, say that money isn't your thing, though. I mean, some people, it's not their motivation. They're into a passion project. I just had a Facebook Live with Tim Hill and his podcast is called Connect Over Coffee. So his passion is coffee. We have somebody that we talk to in an ebook that I'll promote in just a few moments. That is her thing is religion. So she's a very spiritual person. Other people, money is their motivation. So whether it's building community or growing influence, being the go-to person in your space, or making money, podcasting can really accomplish that goal. Depending on which one of those that you pick, there's a different strategy to put in place for each one of those three ways that you can get into the game.
Nice. I love that. So let's talk a little bit about the industries first, then we'll come back to the strategies, because I really want to make sure that everybody understands that no matter where you are or what you're doing, this is for you. Even if you're sitting at home and you're bored out of your mind and you're losing your mind, then start a podcast, because I'm telling you, it has been so much fun. It boggles my mind. So for those of you who don't know, I started the Business Ownership Podcast not even 2 weeks ago. Less than 2 weeks ago
Crazy.
Today.
Amazing.
And I already have like 175 downloads for it, which is phenomenal.
Can we just spend a moment just thinking about that for just a second? Imagine as you're listening and you're in Michelle's community, imagine putting out a message and immediately having 20 people listen to that message in a conference room. Then imagine amplifying that times 10. Almost 200 people are listening to Michelle's podcast now when the episodes come out. What's so cool about that is that it gives you automatic license to influence. It puts you in a position. People say, well, they only have 50 listeners. I'm like, yeah, try getting a conference room filled with 50 people once a week to hear your message. I'm telling you, that is the game. It is such a great game. And I want you to just let that sink in for a second, because Michelle, literally our first many episodes, we didn't have any more than 7 or 10 downloads per episode. And I think one of them was my cousin. I'm sure one of them was my mom. And I'm 100% sure 2 or 3 of them were my brother, because he listened on different platforms. So, and the other 2 might have even been my kids in the very beginning, but no longer. They don't listen anymore.
Fair enough. I haven't even had a chance to tell my mom yet. I probably should.
Yeah, you might want to let her know that you're gonna be an influencer in the world that you are in right now. That's pretty cool to even think that alone.
That is super cool. And going back to kind of how much fun it's been and being able to talk to people and finding like-minded people who are talking about it. Because some of the ideas that I've had is like, oh, nobody's going to listen to that. And then all of a sudden I'm like, poof, 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 poof. People are going, hey, that's awesome. That's fantastic. I love what you're doing. So it has just been like a delight. And what I noticed is that the variety of businesses that can be involved in podcasts and garner a following, things that you would think of like, nobody's going to follow that. Who cares about, I don't know, building wind turbines in the middle of, the prairies? But
there is a podcast for that. It doesn't matter what your industry is. Actually, the more that you can fine tune your niche, they always say the riches are in the niches. The more that you can actually fine tune, the more accurate you're going to be when you go to, let's say, survey your audience to figure out what your audience is into. So if you are a banker that only deals with minorities, the Minority Banking Podcast. If you're a funeral director and you want to talk podcasting, there's probably a handful of funeral director podcasts out there. If you're somebody that is as an accountant, but you only deal with a specific industry, the zookeepers accountants industry, there is going to be a podcast for you. And the beauty of it is the finer tune that you can get into who that niche is, the more likely it will be. I have a show, it's right behind me. Unless you pulled back on that screen, you might not be able to see it. But there's a show right over my shoulder here, the left shoulder. I have a show called Ford Mustang. Thank you, Michelle. Ford Mustang, the Early Years Podcast. And that show routinely gets anywhere between 500 to 1,000 downloads per episode. I'm less than a year into this show. Now, my goal on that show was not to monetize the show, and that's not necessarily the focus at all. My focus was to grow a community and become an influencer. Why? I don't know. I haven't figured out what I want to do with it yet. But the beauty of it is, in that particular case, that growing a community and building influence is done. On the other hand, my show, The Nice Guys on Business podcast, while it is a much wider net that I have cast, it has created and generated a huge amount of business development opportunities for me, joint venture partnerships, affiliate relationships, like I said, a bunch of different ways that I can make money from the show. And it has been it's been phenomenal. And we started that thing 5 years ago, and it has just been on fire, ever since.
Nice. I love that. And one of the things that I've noticed is it is so much easier to garner people's attention when I say I have a podcast and they're like, "Oh, that's fantastic. What's it about?" Da, da, da. And then people that before I might not think that I have a conversation with to be had with them, all of a sudden they're going, "Oh, that's fantastic. I'd love to be a guest on your show sometime." I would love to have you as a guest
Well,
on my show. That'd be
it's so
awesome.
true. I mean, one of the benefits of having a podcast when you start your podcast is that you will use it as a way to reach the untouchable. There are many people. Think about the people that are in your industry that are the unreachables right now, and how easy it is to call them at this point and say, "Hey, I would love to have you come on my show to share your message and your wins and victories with my community." And if that person was somebody that was unreachable before, they at least got a little bit closer to you as a result of you having a podcast. Does that mean everybody's going to say yes? Absolutely not. I still have plenty of people that have said no to me, the influencers and the VIPs and the major thought leaders in my world. But most of them, they do think twice. And the ones that do decide, maybe they have something that they want to promote, it gets me 45 minutes often of a free coaching from them. It gets their message out to my community. It gets me a little bit closer to them. And depending on what your business is, that could absolutely help you share that message with your community so that you get a little closer and that you could be aligned with that influencer and maybe start introducing those products and services to your community as well.
Nice. And just to kind of foray into that, for those of you who don't know, we've started to niche down into the craft beer marketing department, if you want to put it that way. So craft brew marketing agency is what we've started. And it's in order to help craft breweries garner raving fans for their clients. And I don't know if you're like me, but going on platforms like LinkedIn or anything like that and going, "Hey, how you doing? Do you need a marketing company?"
It's shouting into an oncoming wind. Nobody's hearing you. There's way too many people shouting. It's great. It really does. It sets you apart from the crowd. If you just have a little bit of it, it's not like you need to start a podcast so that you could be 50 feet down in front of everybody. You just need the 1% advantage. Just what is it that you have? It's just like when I was a professional speaker and I would say, I have a book, and then I could say, I have a best-selling book. The fact that I had a book, let alone a best-selling book, put me just at a slight advantage over everybody else that was in the industry that was vying for that speaking position too. A podcast does nothing more than that. It gives you a slight advantage over people that don't have podcasts. So it is a great way to share your message and grow influence as well.
Well, yeah, and it was a great conversation to be able to go in and go, "Hey, just wondering if you or the founder of the company would be interested in doing an interview on our podcast." And they're like, "For what?" And like, "To market you." "Well, what do you want?" "Nothing." It doesn't cost you, and we need some of your time, and that's about it. And then they got really excited.
It's funny. People are really they're highly skeptical of those that are presenting an opportunity to give. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't at some point build a relationship with that person enough to say, "Hey, would you be open to hearing more about what I do?" And I don't encourage people to start a podcast, start doing interviews, and pounce the people that come on there. That's a horrible way. Would you handle any other sales cycle that way? No, it's relationship first. And so for me, building my show, building my guest list from those that have been, or building my client list for those that have been in my guest seat has not been. And I would encourage you to talk to people that have been on my show and ask them, "Did you feel threatened by Doug? Did you feel sold by Doug? Did you feel like you were bamboozled by Doug to get on his show so that he could put?" No, that's never my approach. My approach is, if it makes sense to put something in front of you that would be to your advantage, and I see an opportunity to put my services in your hands, it's my obligation. And I don't come at it from a perspective of used car salesman trying to put them in my services and this is the bottom line. It's like, that's just not my style. Now, if that's your style, you better start working on your sales practices just a little bit. But that does not have to be your style to have a successful podcast in doing interview-based selling either. So that's what I would encourage people to understand. It's not about pounce. It's about building a relationship like anything else in business.
Oh, absolutely. And not to mention the fact that being able to interview somebody for half an hour, you get to know them very well. You have a lot of fun with them. You get to laugh. They get to kind of get a feel for what kind of relationship that potential kind of could turn into. I'll spit the words out yet. It's all good.
Well, and one other thing, let me just hit this very, very closely, or just for a quick moment, is that once you get to know somebody and you have them as a guest on your podcast, once you get to know them, if you feel like, although they may be a great fit for your products or services, they just aren't the right personality to gel with you, how great is that to know that ahead of time before prospecting this person to discover, geez, they're going to buy something that I have. I don't even like them. I'd much rather like the people that are getting on my client list. It has given me an opportunity many times over to say, I've had this person, I know they could use the products or services that I have, but I don't really think that they fit on my client list because they don't have the same philosophy as I do. They don't fit into our company culture. They're going to be a thorn in my side when it comes to having to, nitpick everything that I'm doing. I'd much rather have somebody that's in alignment with, closely aligned with the way that I do things. And it gives me an opportunity to say, I want you as a client, or I don't want you as a client, even before they even realize it. So I just wanted to share that because I think it's so important. I'd rather pick my clients than have my clients pick me.
Nice. So Deirdre's saying, I love podcasts. They're so great for building your brand. And it's so true. I don't know of anything that's kind of as easy, as fun as everything. I know so many people sit there and try and create content. It's like, oh, I need an opt-in. And they bang their head against a wall on a white piece of paper for days and months and years on end. Whereas with the podcast, it's just like, hey, what do you want to talk about? Throw somebody in front of you. All of a sudden you have this ton of conversation.
Oh, it's great. It could be the shortest funnel ever. I mean, literally the funnel is, I'm sharing a message with my community. I want my community to fill out a form so I can call them to have a consultation. It could be literally that easy. They've already gotten to know you through your podcast. And many times, if you have a podcast that have been out, let's say for several weeks or a month or 6 months, your community is not just listening to one episode. They've probably listened to a bunch of episodes of yours. So oftentimes when that first call happens, they already know you. Now, you don't know them, but you can quickly tell based upon the products and services that you provide, your knowledge of those, and your quick assessment of who this person is on the other end of the phone or Zoom screen. You could tell whether that's somebody that you really want to fit into your products or services or not. I love very short, ultra short funnels. It literally is you to your community to sign up for a free consultation to hear about what you do. It doesn't have to be any more challenging than that.
Perfect. So is there any kind of question that people are going to be asking themselves right now of, well, would it be good for me? Should I be doing this? What kind of things?
So I'm a podcasting hammer. So everything looks like a podcasting nail to me. So rather than me saying to you, hey, I think that you should get into podcasting because I think it would be beneficial for your business, let me talk to those that are out there that have considered starting a podcast to begin with. Some of the objections and some of the hesitations and some of the reasons why people are going to, or I've thought about starting a podcast, I just haven't started a podcast yet. Some of the things that I hear are things like, I don't understand technology. So the microphone and all the other stuff, it's just going to be too complicated for me. Or I don't have a big community, or I don't even know what my product or service is yet. So I don't really know what product I would present to my community. Or I'm not really outgoing or an extrovert, and I don't want to, I don't know how that I'm going to actually entertain or keep people engaged through my podcast. I would say to you, of those reasons, those 4 reasons, the majority of the time, it's the 6 inches between your ears that is getting in the way. I mean, let me just take a couple of for instances. For instance, literally this microphone is the one piece of equipment that I have bought that I've had for 5 years. Yes, it was a learning curve. No, I did not know how to use even a plug and play microphone, but it literally is a microphone that I spent $125 on. It plugs into my computer. And when I get on Zoom, Zoom tells me, which microphone do you want to use? So I just select that. I put some earbuds in and I'm going. So from a technology perspective, just lower that for just a moment. From a personality perspective, I don't have a big personality, so I'm not sure, I can really, entertain my audience. What are they going to be interested in hearing from me? Keep in mind, especially if you have an interview podcast, your podcast is actually not even about you. It's about your guest. So by asking questions of curiosity, you'll probably put yourself in a much better position to engage and win over your audience. And keep in mind, again, you don't have to be an influencer. By you having influencers or even having normal people like you and me on your show, that's actually the best kind of person to have on your show. As far as having a big list, the third big reason why people aren't getting into podcasting, keep in mind that you are going to build your community through your podcast. While you think that you may have a small or non-existent community, It does not take a community of hundreds or even thousands or even hundreds to get started and be successful. You could have 3, 4, 5, 10 people that are listening to your show and have somebody from your community call you or reach out to you based upon a call to action that we've put together through our training to share with them the secrets that you have that are putting you 2 steps on the path further than them. All of that stuff, community influence, money, if that's your goal, and those objections, whether it's technology, personality, having a big list, those are all things that we make sure that we cover through a program that we've put together called the Ultimate Podcast Launch Formula. So we want to make sure that everybody is aware that you're right where everybody is. We don't expect you to come to the table knowing what your title is going to be or knowing how to put this thing together or knowing technology. We tell people actually on the first day of class, we tell people, come without anything. Come with a level of belief that you can actually do this, but don't come with any tech knowledge. Don't come with any, we tell everybody, we charge you twice as much if you come to the table already experienced, because we're going to have to undo everything that you've already learned. So just keep in mind that no matter where you fall into the equation, whether you're tech savvy or you have no tech experience at all, our job, our goal, our process, our system is in place to support you. I mean, we even do things like we have a Facebook group just for people that are launching their podcast, and we staff that with 8 of our team because we know that different people are going to relate to different people on our team. So we want to make sure that everybody on our team has a chance to communicate and talk with you as well. So I know I just covered a whole bunch of stuff there, but hopefully that's something that, if you do and you want to get more information, I know that Michelle is going to share a link or do something that we can get them information about how to take it to the next step with this process.
Absolutely, I am. So I am going to attempt to put this in the chat. I think there you go. It's popped up there. And Doug, I can implore your assistance one more time. How do I get it from there into the comments?
Hey, if you just drop it into the Facebook chat, I will go ahead and put it into there. You don't have to worry about it any further than that.
Okay, well,
actually, all you have to do is hit return if you're in the comments area, because that should post it if you do that, Michelle.
And I'm just going to go into Facebook directly.
There you go. That's good. You can do that.
I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing here, but hey.
Yeah,
it's been fun.
It's really interesting. Since I got into podcasting, I think my tech experience has really multiplied many times over. Oh, there you go. You just put it in there. Way to go, Michelle. You did it good.
Hey.
You did it very good.
I just bypassed. I went straight in. I have 2 screens. So I have us here and then I have Facebook over there. So I just went,
So when I got into podcasting, I would say my tech knowledge was okay, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I totally get this. Since then, I mean, I've been doing Facebook Lives and doing the StreamYard thing and doing ebooks and doing all this other stuff. As a matter of fact, the ebook that Michelle just dropped into the comments box, how to start, grow, and profit from a successful podcast. One of the things that I always tell everybody is don't focus on the stuff that you don't know how to do. Let's focus on the stuff that you do know how to do. We'll take that experience. That will be your strength. That will be the springboard that we start from. And then we are going to fill in the gaps. So whether you're not experienced with putting together a piece of cover art, we're going to walk through it so easily through the program that we have in place to teach you how to put together your cover art. I don't know how to title my show. Same thing. I don't know how to describe my show in 3 sentences. Same thing. We tell you, here's what you put in sentence 1. Here's what you put in sentence 2. Here's what you put in sentence 3. You're going to put a little bit of your personality into that. I don't know how to do the tech, so I don't know how to find a host for this, or I don't know how to get it connected with Apple Podcasts or iTunes or Stitcher or any of those things. You do not have to worry about any of that stuff. Well, the first thing that you need to do is figure out, again, I'm not talking to the people that are resistant to podcasting. Who I'm talking to right now in your community, Michelle, are those that are, let's call them podcast curious. Somebody that is like, is this something for me? Just check out the ebook that Michelle put into the comments area. Click on that. It'll take you to the document itself. It'll actually email the document to you. And then you can see if you want to take it to the next step. Beyond that, there's a free masterclass that you can sit in on. We have 2 different sessions because we've gotten so much demand for this. In the first 5 hours, we actually put over 100 people in the masterclass because we know that many people are podcast curious. And if you're that person that's podcast curious, your start is with the ebook, How to Start, Grow, and Profit from a Successful Podcast. And it is very cool, and I'm excited to have you on this journey with me. And Michelle, I'm excited to have you 2 steps further down the path than you were where the people that are listening to this right now. Can I ask you a question or 2? Is that okay? I'm curious.
Oh, absolutely, of course.
Okay, So when we first introduced that we were going to share this this tool with the JVology community, because that's how we met originally. When I first said we're going to share this tool, like what ran through your mind?
Oh, I was so excited. I was like, oh my God. Because for those of you who don't know, I had been thinking about planning on dipping my toes in the water of starting a podcast since 2000 and I want to say late 16, early 17. So it's been at least 3 years and never got it to fruition. There was always some excuse, some reason that I had stopped and stumbled and fell and just went, oh, this is just too much like work. Wah. Crawl under my desk and cry like I do. And when you guys offered it, I was stoked. It was like, finally, somebody to hold my hand, walk me through this, and we're going to have the step-by-steps. They're going to tell me what rocks, what sucks. And I jumped in deep end in the pool. I was totally enamored.
And so when you started going, again, I'm trying to create some level of relatability to those that are in our community, because I'm sure many people in our community is like, I'm going to do this one day. And just like you, I'm going to do this one day. So then you finally said, I'm going to do this. And then you dipped your toe into the podcasting pool. What was the first experience like? Because we tried to put together like a system that we really thought it's community based. So it's involved with everybody going through it. We all have a specific launch date. And I love the idea of having that. And I think we came up with that through just JVology. And as we started to do it, let's have a specific date. And that way we'll get everybody to rally around that date. So what was your thought about just the process of going through the course itself?
It was phenomenal. Everything was step by step by step by step, and it was baby steps. So there was no point where I would go, I don't know how to do that, because it was, then you click here, then you write this, then you click here, and then you write this.
Right.
And I was like, step by step. Like seriously, I couldn't have failed if I tried. It was so well done. I was so impressed. I was blown away. You couldn't have made it any easier, because there was just no way to make it easier. You were completely baby steps all the way. It was awesome.
We figured we broke it down into so many little tiny bite-sized pieces that everybody could be successful at. And then when you started to get involved in the community, because that's the next thing that we really did. We wanted to create an environment that was easy to follow, small bite-sized pieces, involve the community. What about the community? Now you did it with a whole bunch of people that you know. So how did that feel when you did that?
It was awesome. So whether we knew them or not, I mean, they were an awesome group of people, but you guys made it so easy for everybody to contribute and be creative and throw in their thoughts, and every thought was welcome and every thought was considered, and you just ran with it. It was great. There was always people that were interacting, and as people were popping up all their artwork and stuff, I got so excited because it's like, oh my God, that's beautiful. That's awesome. That is so cool. What are you doing? What's this on? And it just creates like a fire. It's like the little spark happens, and then all of a sudden, poof, you have this inferno of activity and flurry.
And again, that's exactly what we tried to create here. And I want to, if you'll allow me to share my screen for just a quick moment, I want to share with everybody here. I think you have to put it up there. I think you just click on the left-hand side over there.
Thank you.
So this is Michelle's podcast. So let me see if I can make this a little bit large. I don't know if iTunes will let me do that, but here, let's take a quick hit at the cover art. Hold on a moment and throw this over here. Yeah, doing a bunch of different things all at the same time. Here we go. And let's see if I can blow this up. I'll be able to do that. So this is Michelle's cover art. Now, this is cool because you created this. I don't know, was this a professional that created this for you, or did you do this on Canva, or where did you get that from? Because you did a really good job with this cover art.
Thank you. I would hope so. That's my job. You know that I'm the creative director for the company.
I was trying to lead you a little bit there, so that's pretty cool. So, but you don't have to have like major marketing or design or graphic design skills in order to be successful at designing this. This is just done. I mean, I don't know if this is done on Canva, but I mean, our cover art was done on Canva.
Well, it is. And in case anybody is wondering, I mean, it's not like everything I do is perfect either. Everything I start with is usually complete crap because I have an idea in my head. I throw it out on paper, and then it never looks on paper what I thought it was in my head. And going through, we had a couple of renditions of this and people going, no, this needs to be bigger. You got to get rid of that. You got to bring this in. And that teamwork that happened in the Facebook was awesome. It was anybody and everybody. So whether it was me as a creative director of a digital marketing company or somebody that was a business coach and just going like, I have no clue how to do this. I have never been in Canva before. I don't know any of it. It made it simple for all of us.
Yeah, we tried to make it as, I mean, we really did scour so many different apps that were out there to make it easy. I mean, Canva, which is an extremely easy app to use, and even if it's not easy for you to use, we have an instructional video that shows you how to create your art on Canva, and we give you all of the specs that iTunes or Apple Podcasts requires that you have when you launch your podcast, and we talk about the important elements of a welcome episode, and we literally walk through in those bite-sized pieces. What I really loved about your group, and we had on just a couple weeks ago on June, I forget what it was, June 9th, I believe it was. Yep. On June 9th, we had 21 podcasts, literally 21 new podcasts that launched on that day. Now, this goal for this new podcast launch that's coming up is 100 podcasts launching on August 18th. And if you want to be part of those 100, imagine the buzz that is created by 21 podcasts launching. Imagine multiply that times 5. You're going to be in a community of people that are all going through the same steps that you are, all sharing their cover art, all looking for responses, all looking for feedback. It's such a safe room. You know, you're going to share your information in a safe environment where people aren't going to poke fun at you because you didn't, you're using, stick figures for your cover art. It's okay. We've actually had some people that have created their own opens and closes, be the beginning and the end. They found their own music. There's a bunch of different things that you can do to find royalty-free music for your show. And so when I started to see all of that, I'm like, oh my gosh, the community that this is creating is great. Many of who those community members are hanging out together now, helping promote their episodes. You're locked into an environment that breeds success. And I love that. The system creates success. It creates accountability. You have people that are walking through this with you. You have me and Strick who are focused 100% on creating a customer experience that is second to none. So all of those things that we're doing, we're not doing it just to launch a bunch of shows. We want to do it so that you guys launch shows successfully. We're going to carry everybody through this process from beginning to end. And I'm looking forward to having them start just with that document that you put into the comments area too.
Awesome. Absolutely. And I wanted to also mention, peeps, for those of you who join the program and decide to start up your podcast in this project, we're going to have another launch party. So you get to go in front of at least, if not more than my 15,000 friends on Facebook and another 1,000 or so on Instagram. They're not huge audiences, but they are active listeners and they love hearing new things. So I highly, highly, highly encourage everybody to go through this system because I'm telling you, it was just, I can't say enough. It was a blast. It was fun. I've been in front of some amazing and incredible people, and kind of a little funny on the side sort of thing, but not really, was a couple of months ago, I was saying, I just don't think big enough. And then Friday, I'm like, hey, I wonder what Howard Stern's doing because I really think he would like my new podcast. It's like all of a sudden my brain just exploded. I was like, I have all these ideas, all these people I want to meet and how we want to do it.
It is amazing the people that you are able to meet when you're podcasting. You don't have to have a huge audience to get influencers on your show. I remember when I had probably about 200 listeners on a routine basis on my show, which is not a huge audience, but it's not a beginner audience. It's a slightly moderate size download count or audience count. When I had 200 people listening on a routine basis to my show, I approached the publicist of Arianna Huffington at the time because she was coming out with a book called Sleep Revolution, and we just developed a little bit of a relationship, a little bit of a lingo back and forth, just a little bit of just chatter. And when Arianna's book came out, when it was official that the book came out, I reached out to that publicist and I said, hey, I'd love to have Arianna on the show. Never asked me a question about how many downloads I have because I had a relationship with her already. It was just, she had sent other guests to me. I easily picked up those guests, no questions asked, because I knew that eventually that it would come around to my opportunity to ask her for something. Now, did I angle that? Yeah, I probably angled that. I was looking for opportunity at a time where opportunity found me. Okay, so that's luck, right? everything that you do, if you're doing it to grow a business, you have to do it with the idea of what can I do that would be, from Jay's mentality, what can I do where I say I'll go first? And when I say I'll go first, presenting an opportunity to her for months and months and months before Ariana's book was finally came out and launched officially. And then that was just an easy ask. Some of my asks were a little bit more challenging. There's been plenty of asks that I've had where people said no, but that's okay. I've landed my fair share of ego building guests, but the best guests are people like you and me, Michelle, the ones that can really share a great message, a relatable message to my community. Everybody that's in that JVology room, everybody that's in your community, everybody that's in my community, those are the people that I really want to chat with, because they're the ones that are totally relatable to others in my community to get their point across.
Nice. So yeah, as people are kind of scrolling through, I'm thinking, oh, you could have a podcast and you could have a podcast. I'm turning into that your hammer for you. But yeah, it's like if you're an artist and you want to get a hold of the art gallery owners, or if like anybody that's in your audience that you want to get a hold of, it's just so much easier and just so much more fun. So everybody likes a party. I love inviting people to a party. So, and this is my digital party ground now.
I love a party. That's right. This is right. It's true. It's the digital party between Facebook Live, StreamYard, and podcasting. Man, this digital world has been great. Another reason that you could get into it is if you're still in a position where you're stuck at home and trying to figure out how you can work through this business development and lead gen stuff. Man, podcasting is a huge way to do that. Again, you can't make any money from a car or you can't. Let's see, what's the expression? You can't drive your car if it's in the garage. You got to get it out of the garage and put it onto the driveway to start. And then you got to get it on the street before you can get it on the highway. So if your car is still in the garage, meaning your podcast has not been built yet, just the ideas are like colliding together. Let's put some wrenches on this thing. Let's get this thing out the garage door and onto the street. And we can show you a bunch of different ways to build community influence and build that bank account. Because sometimes it's about, hey, you got to have dollars coming in the door so you can do the stuff that you want to do in life.
Absolutely. And just again, any objection you guys have, come and ask me, because even if you think, well, I'm not that outgoing, or I've got an accent, or people aren't going to listen to me, whatever, none of that matters. People are enamored by the things that you're enamored by, and they will get through it. Trust me. If you've there's who is the gentleman? His name just escapes me. That was teaching meditation, and he has a very in the moment now, in the now. Somebody in the chat and tell me who wrote the book Now. Is it Now?
Oh, well, let's see. I can Google it. Let's see.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll do it. The book is called Now. The book.
It was huge, and he went on Oprah, and all of a sudden exploded.
Let's see. I got Eckhart Tolle.
That's it.
Okay.
How can I not have his name in my brain?
Got it.
But yeah, listening to him, to me, as like, it wasn't initially one of the things that I went, and then all of a sudden started listening to him all the time, because the guy is just freaking brilliant and amazing. And it just completely turned around the way I thought of kind of you have to sound in order to garner a following. And it's just so absolutely not true.
No, as a matter of fact, the best person to be when you're podcasting is you, because that's the person that everybody is going to fall in love with. I won't blame Strickland for this. I have this thwarted, weird, obscure sense of humor. Sometimes it takes me a long time to get a joke. And sometimes I'm like the one that's making the joke and I get it, but nobody else gets it. And so for me, over the last 5 years and almost 1,100 episodes of Building the Nice Guys on Business podcast, I've shared my sense of humor and my personality and the problems in my life and the things, and you could share great business advice, but that's not why your community is staying with you. Your community is staying with you because they like you. They fall in love with you. They want to hear more about you. And so my crazy, thwarted, skewed personality, the problems and the adventures that I have in my personal life, from my move from the East Coast to the West Coast, my relationship issues, my wins and my successes and victories when it comes to relationships, and my failures. They want to hear all that stuff too. And yes, you do not have to show that stuff or play that stuff for your community. But I'll tell you, when you start to share a little bit more about your personal life and about who you are, people will come for those business interviews also. The ones that are the most vocal in our community, and we have a significant community now, The ones that are the most vocal are the ones that love to tune in when it's just me and Strickland, my co-host, shooting the crap and just talking about everything and nothing about business, but everything about us, personally. So I would say your best adventure is to share your adventure when it comes to your podcast, and people will fall in love with you. They'll come for the guests maybe, but they're going to stay because of you.
That is so fun. I love that. And it's so true. I mean, people just want to get to know you because you're fascinating and wonderful and awesome. And maybe you do, or maybe you don't know it yet.
Yeah, there's
So,
you got a lot of awesome people in your community. I know, just knowing you, Michelle, those people in your community, they're going to be unique individuals. They have their own personalities, their own styles. I mean, I'm naming people because I think it's important for you to know that your uniqueness is what is going to make you special when it comes to podcasting. If you don't think that you're unique, think again, because whoever you are, your style and your personality is not the same as anybody else's. You bring that to podcasting, and no matter what message that you have to share, it's going to be a winning message. You do not have to come to the table with 30 episodes already outlined. Geez, if that was the case, I would have been out of this 1,099 episodes ago. I'm telling you, the way to be successful at podcasting is to show up, be ready to talk about you, be ready to share some of your experience, even if you're only 1 or 2 steps down the path further than the people that are going to be listening in your community. You are 1 to 2 steps further, and you are going to be highly relatable to those that are in your community, and they're going to love you and buy the stuff that you have if you want to sell something.
nice. I love it. So peeps, whether you're in fitness, you're a chiropractor, you're a tradesperson, you're a professional, you're an artist, you're a creative, whatever you are, there is a podcast out there waiting for you. So highly, highly, highly encourage you to at least go and get the ebook, because there's some wicked awesome information in there alone that will get you. And I love the expression podcast curious. So, go tickle your fancy on that one. Anything else you'd like to say to our peeps? Because I know you got stuff to do, so I don't want to keep you too
So let me I'll just wrap up with this, because I think this is oftentimes is the thing that holds many people back. And I'm not sure if this is what held you back at the time when you were in 2016 just struggling through the idea of launching a podcast, Michelle. But so many people let perfect be the enemy of done. They really want to have that perfect understanding of every component that's going to be put together, that perfect course, that perfect website, that perfect whatever it is. And I would tell you, don't do that, because you're going to be in a position to be waiting forever. Nothing is going to be perfect. If I waited till everything was perfect before I got into podcasting, I never would have started. It was an imperfect science that I put together a podcast. I struggled my way through the first 2 years. You don't have to do that. We've created a system where your struggle will be a lot less. Hopefully it will be non-existent when you go through this process with us, because we've created and fine-tuned the system so well. So I would encourage you, don't let perfect be the enemy of done. Just get it done. And we're here for you to support you and have you in our community. And we look forward to you at least taking the first step, which would be download the ebook. It's how to start growing and be successful at podcasting. It's for you, and it's right there in the comments area.
I love that. And Jean says, perfect is the enemy of done, for sure. We all agree with you on that.
Agreed.
And yep, I'm telling you, this was so much fun, such a creative basket to be in, and to just be able to hang around with the other little baby chicks that you had, and everybody learning and growing. And when we all flew the nest, it was so exciting and so much fun. So I want everybody to have that feeling, because it was phenomenal. And it's definitely a break in the norm from this whole COVID thing.
I felt like Mama Bird when I let my 21 chicks go on June 9th, and it was a great feeling, and they are all still flying right around here. So I feel it. And thank you for helping support me during this product launch, and thank you for sharing my my ebook with your community. It's a great way to start, just to see if it test the waters of the podcasting space and dip your toe in. Come on in.
Absolutely.
It'll be fun.
It will be. And if you have any questions and you're not sure, absolutely email me at michelle@awarenessstrategies.com. You guys know where I am. I answer my own email. Happy to answer any question you might have. Totally encourage you to get in on this one, because it was a stellar experience for me. So thank you, and Strickland, very, very much. It was, again, I can't thank you enough for bringing this into my life, and I will forever be grateful.
Well, thank you, and thanks for doing such a great job, man. You actually followed all the instructions that we had, and you sailed through it, which is great. Never heard
I
a peep from
know,
you.
right? And tell that to Jay because he doesn't think I know how to listen to instructions because I think it took me about 3 years of doing what he kept telling me to do, and I'm like,
Now
"No,
you
no, I'll
know,
do it my way. I'll do it."
Michelle, I'm going to stay out of that one. Jay was a launching podcast also, and he was, not quite as easy as you were going through the process. So, if I go to him with, "Hey, Michelle could have been right on there," maybe he's not going to like that too much. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I'll let you fight that battle.
I will always push that button, let me tell you. Awesome. Okay, peeps, go get the ebook. Go have fun, and you can do this to yourself too because it's fun. Go do it. Awesome.